Welcome to a new edition of If I Ever Live to Be. Today I'm joined by Chelsea Scomak. She is one of my good friends, but she's also the super intelligent, amazing woman, which you're going to find out for your own when we dive in. But she is CEO and lifestyle financial planner with Via Brio. Welcome, Chelsea.
Well, thanks. I love how as soon as we start recording, a weed whacker went off in my backyard. The
You know
landscaper.
what? That's how this goes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're just lucky.
So lucky.
Lucky like that. That's usually how it goes for me too. So it's fine.
But thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you do financial planning, coaching, and investment management.
Yes.
And so we're going to talk about that today. But I want to preface it with this overall, this is not your parents' financial planning.
No. Clearly, I don't wear a three-piece suit.
Well, but that's what I love, right? It's like that's how your business is built, is it's really this non-traditional approach to financial planning, investment management. And so first I wanted to start us off because you have a new brand.
Yes.
And which I love. I love the colors. I love the look of it. And I was actually curious how you came up with Via Brio.
Oh, yeah, that's like one of my favorite stories.
Okay, good.
Which actually is funny too, because I'm trying to think of like the exact dates, but I'm pretty sure we're coming up on the 1 year of me actually putting it out there.
Because that takes time.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Via Brio, I was like racking my brain. So like before this, I was a part of like different networks with different brands and things like that. And I was like, you know what? I ended up like moving to a part where I was using my name only. And I was like, it's my name, but I was like, I want it to be more than just like you're working with Chelsea. Cause eventually, like, I want this to be like a big, meaningful company and experience. And we're like giving back to the community and things like that. And I was like, yeah, that's me. But like, I want it to be like a network, right? And I was like, well, I like the beach and I like these things. And like, like you Google like coastal, or you like look at like different names and things, and like because I live in Florida, every freaking financial company has like Gulf Coast, intercoastal, coastal, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, this is not working. And then I was like, you know what? Like, what exactly is the brand? So I was like, well, it's lively. It's not traditional. I want it to like finances are hard enough. Like I want people to come into this experience and not feel judged. And like we laugh and we like sometimes we cry and like all these things, but like it's high energy. Like we're not coming in here and being like, there's nothing we can do. Woe is me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, let's like change lives. Let's change your life. And then in turn change other lives. So then, funny enough, I actually live on a street that starts with Via. So I already knew that Via means through.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so I like this like Via. And then I was like Via Vivacity and Via high end. Like I was like, what's like a nice word that like puts that together? And Brio in Italian means vivacity. And I have an Italian background in my family. So I was like, okay, well, like Via Brio, which is also really funny because like it's not something normal that is like you would think for something financially related. So I did add advising on like my domain, so it's Via Brio Advising. But Via Brio is its brand. So so like people be like, you work for Via Bravo or Brevo, and I'm like, someday it's gonna be like this awesome thing that people just know, like Via Brio, like yeah. But for me it just fit, like because I don't fit into like the normal finance system, because what I do is very like innovative and advanced in that, like it just made a whole lot of sense. And because I was getting so much pushback for it, I was like, yeah, it feels right to me. And it like, yeah, absolutely, we're gonna do this.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And it's it does really speak to you as a person and how you approach this, because just as you were explaining it, you're not like ho hum, this is sad. And because I know I feel like if I ever met Chelsea in a networking event, right? And she was like, I'm into financial advising, which is probably what you don't say, because if you did say that, people would be like, okay. And then they're going to turn and go out the door, right?
If someone's giving me like a weird vibe and I'm meeting them, and like I never say what I do first.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, if I don't want to talk to you anymore, I'll be like, I'm a financial advisor, or I sell insurance, and then
yes.
just
I'm in real estate.
Yeah.
Like
because then
everyone.
there's always like 8 advisors in the room anyway. So then I'm like, I'm either like, goodness, like, oh, I'm like the 8th advisor you've met tonight.
Yeah.
Like something like that. But yeah, like not like normally people are kind of surprised when I say that. Yeah.
Because your approach, I mean, I've personally experienced this, not just, okay, let's bring out a spreadsheet and you need to put a little over here and you need to put a little over there. And then, you're going to pay this. And then, okay, see you next time. Like, it's just a completely different approach.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating to me, I mean, I'm just always interested anyway in like how people work and what they feel is the story behind their success and what, inspired that change or anything like that. And you really dive into like why we are spenders or why we are savers or how we operate, through our financial landscape. And so I'd love for you to touch on that, because I know I feel like you do the Enneagram and Colby.
Yes. Yeah. Colby, Enneagram, and then I do human design, which is I always get pushback for that, but I'm like, no. You don't understand. Like, human design is literally like, this is why it doesn't feel right. Like everything that you're doing, this is why you're not successful. Because like energetically, you are not meant to do it this way. And so like the Enneagram definitely is helpful when you are looking at like how are you motivated, like how do you like what do you appreciate about your work, like how are you hardwired about like how you do things. The Colby is more about like I like to use the Colby for business owners, and I don't always have everybody do it, but like the Colby will be more of like, what kind of support do you need on your team to carry your vision forward? So like for me, I'm like a high quick start. So I'm like, yeah, I got an idea. I'm like running down the field with my ball with it, and then I trip and fall, and then someone's got to like pick up the ball and take it the rest of the way. Like, so for me, like I'm the ideas person. I'm like, okay, let's do it. This is like the first couple steps we need to do. And then I run out of steam. And so I need that type of support. So for me, it was super helpful learning about that. But then it also helps my business owners set themselves up for success when they're building out their team as well. But I also do financial virtues, which the bull quiz basically is like what everyone calls it. So it's a behavioral finance assessment. So it'll show you what color bull you are and basically like what biases you have around money. So like if it's really helpful in the investment space as well, but like generally speaking, it helps marriages. It really does, and relationships, because it'll show how you need to process information. And like I'll have like in our house, I'm a blue bull, so I'm like vision all the way. I see how it's coming together. I'm going to put all the people in place to help bring it together. Like, I don't need the like exact details of how one thing is going to help me get there. I just know if it feels like a good fit, we're going there. My boyfriend, my poor boyfriend, is the exact opposite. So he's an
orange
know what
bull. They say about opposites.
I know.
Which is why this helps in marriages though, right? Because I would wager you typically have a saver and a spender.
Yeah. And it's very much like that type of a concept as well. So like for him, every time, like we would always butt heads, and I'd be like, oh, it's coming together. Like I can see it. And he'd be like, how? I was like, Chelsea, how do you get paid? how are you gonna make this money? Like, what the hell? Like, and he just get like really angry about it. And then I pretty much figured out like he needs like the step by step. So then it also helps me when I'm working with clients, like, hey, this is what we need to do. Here's the highlight reel for you, yellow bull, that doesn't need all this information. And here for you, orange bull, like here's a whole textbook on like why we're doing what we're doing and like all of the data that supports that. So there's a lot that I do around like assessments and things, because for me, it was like I was putting financial plans together, I was giving them to people, and like we check in like a month and like nothing was getting done. And like for me, financial planning and the way that I do it is a transformational experience. So I can't just like do that and then let people go and not do anything. So I needed to know how I could best work with clients to help them deal with the changes that needed to be made, what habits they have in place that are like really detrimental to what they're trying to do. And then that's kind of how like MAP, my signature financial planning offer, was born. So
Yeah. Well, and how do you know? Because I feel like this is almost, for most people, finance is almost, I feel like, equated with going to the dentist, right? Of
yeah,
like,
yeah. I'm like,
I
finances are hard enough. Like I like this can't, like I want you to be excited to see me.
well, and you so well, and right, exactly, because I feel like when we go to the dentist, he's going to ask, "Have you been flossing?" And you haven't been, but you can't lie about it, like he's going to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's almost, the traditional sense of how we approach. Like, if I'm like, Chelsea, I know you gave me this plan, but I didn't exactly follow it, and I can't really like cover it up, because you're going to know when you get
Right.
down into the weeds of it.
Right. Yeah. That kind of like, and also I personally hate the dentist. And like, my dad and I were just talking about this
Don't
the
we
other day.
all?
When there's like certain doctors or like dentists or things that you just don't like, and like you have an appointment coming up, so all of a sudden like you feel like you have 8 cavities, your mouth hurts, and like, oh my god, you're gonna have to get like a root canal, and like so you like make all this stuff up in your head, and then you go to
Yes.
the dentist and they're like, oh, good checkup, like no cavities, and then all of a sudden your mouth feels better. Yeah, that's like me and the dentist. So I totally understand. Like I live that analogy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like comes in hand with like what we're doing. So I mean, when I'm going through this process with clients, like I am all up in the business. Like I know the transactions, I know how many times you went to Starbucks, I know like I know, like it's very like where you said, like I know. The difference is that I don't give a crap if you went to Starbucks or not, because if like Starbucks is the thing that is wrecking your financials, there's bigger issues.
Yeah.
So I do have like a lot of clients when they come to see me, they'll be like, I went to Starbucks last week, and I'm like, I don't care. So like we position
Yeah.
it that it's something that we can laugh about, and then really it's, I don't care if you, like in this analogy, like I don't care if you didn't floss, but like why didn't you floss? Like that's what I care about. So if it's something that like, if we're saying we need to do this and you just cannot get yourself to do it, do we need to change the goal, or do we need to like scale it back and look at baby steps? Because some like normally when you have that type of like resistance, there's something bigger behind it. And
Yeah.
I think that's really the difference, because when you go to the dentist, like some dentists are mean, and they'll be like, you really should floss more. Like, I don't want it to be that. I want it to be like, I get it. I get it. Like,
Yeah.
life's busy. I know you didn't floss. I can tell. And like, we laugh about it. And then, like, but what's going on that's preventing you from flossing? Do you need to change like when you floss? Like, if it's not working at night because you're exhausted, do you need to floss in the morning?
Yeah.
Like things like that. Like, why, what is it that's preventing you from doing the things that you know are in the best interest of you? And sometimes it's some story that they've been telling themselves, or it's like, for me, I have ADHD, so I'm like, and especially this has come in handy with with planning in general, because squirrel, I'm like, if something's not like plastered in front of me, I will forget about it. And
But
then even then it'll be there so long that I'll forget it's there. So,
but I love that approach that you take to it, because I feel like we get in this rut of like, you do understand that you have both the opportunity and the obligation within your power to do what you need to do to make it work. To your point, okay, don't floss at night, floss in the morning. It's simple. And I feel like sometimes we're so close to it, which is another reason why I like people just need to call you. We're so close to it that we're just in our routine and we're not even thinking about, well, what if I just change it?
Yeah. Or like, why don't we just make this simpler? Like,
Yeah.
instead of you trying to do like a freaking water flosser, why don't you just get like those toothpicky things that you can throw in your purse?
Yeah.
Like, it's like we have like this idea and like how it has to be and it has to be perfect. And it's like sometimes it doesn't need to be perfect. Sometimes it just needs to be like you did the action and okay, cool. Let's praise the fact that you did the action. And that's the other thing. It's like celebrating the fact that like you did something. Like,
yeah.
Like I had this situation. I do this to myself too, like in all areas of my life. So I totally understand this. I've been like, oh, I gotta do this step thing. I bought this steppy thing and I'm supposed to go on it and step and try to get like steps in. And I was like, I'm gonna get it out and I'm gonna do it because like going to the gym right now is just too much. But it's been sitting in my closet and I keep forgetting it's there because I keep forgetting that this is the thing that I said I was gonna do. So my doctor, I love my freaking doctor. She's awesome. And she was like, can you just pull it out of the closet? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And so I was like, yeah, I did it. I pulled it out of the closet. Now it's like, now it's back in the closet because I had no room. But like, it's just like the simple things, like the simple wins. So like,
yeah.
We talked about your business offer, this business model, and you needed to do a new offer and you sold one. Hell yeah, we're celebrating the crap out of that. Like, because that's something you didn't have like access to like a month ago.
Right.
So it's I think, yeah, it's really like it's getting rid of that, like, well, I'm supposed to do that. And oh well, like I just suck because I didn't do it. Like,
yeah.
Like, I get it. I feel that way a lot of the time just because of how I'm wired. So it's like you just got to take the stingy part out and be like, okay, well, let's get curious about this.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I want to take it to how this is how our approach to money is really rooted and starts in our childhood. And I'll share this story because I was prepping for something else and I really kind of took a deep dive on this for myself.
Ooh.
And so I'll share a little bit of a personal story because I've really been thinking about this. But
yeah,
I was a pretty much A-B student. I got good grades in school. And so like any good family, I was rewarded with money for getting good grades. And I remember this one time my grandfather gave me a $20 bill and he specifically told me, I know, right? Big time money. But he specifically told me, he said, Whitney, I want you to go and spend this on something that you want. Because he knew that I would always save it. The money that I was given, I don't care if it was for my birthday, which is really intended like when you're a kid, right? To go get the thing that you want. I would save it. And he literally was like, if you do not spend this on something that you want, I'm not going to give you any more money. And I'm like, great. Well, now I got another problem, right?
Right. Yeah.
I took that $20 and I went out and bought a CD. Because those were expensive back in the day. They were like $15.
Yeah.
I bought Matchbox 20s, Yourself or Someone Like You.
I love it.
Which if you remember, I was born in the 80s, but like I, was cognizant of surroundings in the 90s, right? So if you remember this album cover, it's not of the band. It's of this rather overweight gentleman that's like shoulders up. He doesn't have a shirt on. It's just strange, the CD cover. And then I brought it home, and I remember my mother like, why did you buy that? So then I was justifying why I bought this album. And then I was like, and then they have the song that you like that we hear on the radio. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like that one little story of that one process has so much in there that, of course, when I was 15, or I don't know how old I was at the time, but you know, the fact that somebody had to tell me, go enjoy yourself. And then when I did, I had to justify it.
Yeah, because now every time you think someone tells you, like, go treat yourself, you're going to be like, are they going to be weird? Or like, am I going to get comments on what I spent it on? And then it makes you freeze, and then you just don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back into the safe it goes.
I love that.
And then if I would have done that, I would have died without buying a CD that I wanted. I mean, come on. It's even that, right? It's like,
yeah, it's like, it's so simple. It's like, well, just go buy the CD.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
But I really,
but even that goes even deeper, because then it's like, are people going to judge me for the type of music I listen to?
Yeah.
And then it goes into all other areas of like, just, oh my God. Yeah. Like, it can get so much deeper. And that's like, too, it's like, there's a line there's like a line that I have to walk. I'm like, okay, so I can point these out, but I am not a therapist. And you're going to have to go take what we just talked about and talk to your therapist about it.
Like, I can talk to you about it in this window, but you clearly need to like, right? Because that's true. And, because I could hear Chelsea now telling me like, Whitney, you do realize you need to spend money, right? Like, you do realize that. You do realize you're going to die one day. Maybe you should enjoy something.
Yes. You know, way down the road.
Let's hope so.
Yes. But no, I mean, I did too. I actually, mine was really funny, and it's funny to look back on it now because it's so clear now, but it was not clear.
Yeah.
When I was picking up on it. So I used to not charge for services, believe it or not. I don't know if I ever told you this.
You just hit something else in my heart because that is that, but that I know where you're going with this because it comes down to knowing your value, but
no, it doesn't. That's what was so shocking.
I'm gonna be quiet. Tell your story.
So I knew that what I was doing was a big deal. And I mean, like, I think the way that I was being told about like what I should be charging just kind of like, it didn't resonate. So like for the longest time I was told like, well, people pay attorneys this an hour and you're doing like planning and it's the same type of thing. And like, so you really need to be charging like an attorney. And I was like, it's not resonating with me. And like, it's just not, because I'm not an attorney. But for me, it was like I would charge, this is like way back in the day. So like, oh my goodness, like it was a lot if I was charging $500 for a plan. And now like low, like that is like the $500 is like an ongoing subscription now that I have. So like, bare minimum. And I would make every excuse in the book to not have anybody pay that, because I had apparently ingrained in me that, well, obviously, like it was like the money is evil thing, but it's like, it was like, I wasn't thinking that because I also was like broke and I was like working a part-time job and like trying to figure all this out. So it's like, I knew I wanted money. But I had a life coach and she was amazing. And she was like, why are you continuing to like discount your services? And I was like, oh, like, I mean, like, I don't want anybody to feel like they can't have access to this information. And she's like, yeah, but like, there's a difference between what you're doing and having access to information. And I was like, yeah, but you know what? Like it's so awkward. And especially in my space, for the longest time, I was like, so I'm telling people to be better with their money and I'm telling them to pay me to tell them that. Like, it was just a weird concept for a long time. And So we're like going down the rabbit hole. She's like, why? And I was like, well, if I charge, then people won't love me anymore.
Wow.
So then I was like, oh, what the hell just happened? Like, that is very deep. And that I was like, we're going to have to go talk about that in therapy. But like, basically came down to
wow.
kind of like what, money was tied into like unconditional love for me. At some point, I was told something that was like, all Chelsea wants from you is money.
Wow. Yeah.
So she doesn't deserve your time, your love, your effort. And it was like a weird family situation. It wasn't even true. But that happened. So then in return, I'm like, I love people and I want them to be okay. And like, I want them to like me and the way I do things. So if I charge for the services, then I am the bad guy. And like, I don't deserve love. And I was like, what the hell kind of crap our brains try to trick us into believing? Because then it was like, because then she basically was like, so do you believe that you don't deserve to have abundance in your life because of love? Like, what is, like, people can like you and not like you and still pay you to do something. And I was like, oh yeah, that's very true. But like, why was abundance and like why did I have to be broke and give good work? Like, that just doesn't make sense either. So that was like a big eye opener for me. And that's what made me actually start looking at like, oh, well, like I knew all the things that I had to do for my business. I knew math. Like, I'm really good at math. I knew if I charged this per this and I had this many hours and this is what I was putting into and this is the type of salary I wanted to have for myself, then this is what I needed to do. But like when it came to having those conversations, it was like, no, just do it. It's fine. Like, it took actually one of my really good friends. She literally was like, I'm writing you a check. Tell me who to write it out to, because you are not doing this for free. And that was like one of the biggest like moments for me to be like, oh, okay. But like, yeah, all of these things, like I've been there in a version. So I totally understand what that's like. And I totally understand what's needed to get you out of thinking these things. So for me, when it came down to like financial planning, it's all ingraded. Like money mindset, financial planning, like it's all connected. So for me, it was like, why would I give a financial plan without addressing these things? Like, it's a disservice. So
that is so good.
Mm-hmm. It's wild.
So what was the point in your life, Chelsea, that you decided? So it's probably a little bit before this story, but where did you decide, like, I want to go into financial planning to help others dealing with this issue?
So I was in college for business. I was business undeclared. But my family was like business. Like, my mom taught school, but she taught like the business subject where you
Yeah.
had to like do your graduation project, you learn to type and all that stuff. My dad owned a dry cleaner. So like, I was entrepreneurial. I had my own pet business. I sold coffee and lemonade at yard sales. Like, I knew how to do this stuff. I helped my dad in his business. I did filing, like all these things.
Nice.
And so like, I knew that I wanted to do something in business. So when I got to college, I thought I wanted to be an accounting major because I did like math. And then I quickly realized I did not want to be an accounting major because there's accounting and then there's like tax and accounting, and no, it's not on just regular accounting. So I had a professor, and honestly, like the amount of times I refer back to this professor, I'm like, man, you really were like a big piece of these decisions. But I remember like one of the first classes, he like asked us to raise our hands if we were like accounting majors, and I raised mine. He's like, so you're no longer an accounting major, you're an accounting major with a concentration in personal financial planning. And I was like, what the frick does that mean? And so I started like learning more about what that was about, and I kind of like the idea around it. And I was helping a roommate trying to find a job on campus, and I came across an internship opportunity at an insurance company. And uh, the guy with that, he was fantastic. He was like, "This is the type of work we do. You can get further into financial services down the road, but like these are the stories of like impact that being in this industry makes." And I really like the idea of changing people's lives with money. And that's kind of how that all started.
Nice.
I think. Yeah. Sounds about right.
So, what made you want to branch out and do your own company?
I'm not a good teammate. So, or how should I put it? It's not, I'm a great teammate. And I, like, if I have to, I'll have my assistant write a statement. Um, but I am not a good employee, is basically where this came out. And I had a lot of like, up until this point, I had a lot of relationships where I wasn't in charge of decision making.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of different disagreements, things that just didn't like add up. There was like a lot of discrepancies. There was like some of the relationships I had, like I was paying a fee for something, but it's something that like should have been included in our work together because it was like full brand, like just like little itty bitty things. And then also I felt like I couldn't fully do what it was I was trying to do. Like Map has been rebranded a couple of times, but I had a version of Map at previous relationships, and it just felt like I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like I was always hitting like a limit of where I felt like I couldn't go all out. Cause I like compliance wise, what I'm doing with clients wise, pricing wise, like it was all working, but it just felt like I couldn't be either totally myself or like do exactly what I needed to do with clients. Like there was
Yeah.
always kind of like what you're saying, like there's always this judgment in the background. And I felt like I had to get rid of that to be able to fully be in this. So I partnered with people that just understand how I work. And even though I know I can be a pain in the ass, they're like in my corner and fight with me and things like that. I've gotten involved with more like industry related like conversations and
Yeah.
trying to make sure that other advisors are able to do things like this. I've started coaching advisors because it's just been a natural transition of like, this is how I do things. Most of my practice is automated, and I'm able to deliver very high like quality financial planning advice because of it, and really be there for my clients when they need me. And yeah, it just like, I feel like it's funny. I'm going to say this. I feel like I hadn't been able to be myself fully, and not care about others in the industry and how they perceive me until I was Chelsea Scomak, and that was it. Um, and that was kind of like the other thing. I was like, how can I tell other like my clients to do this stuff that sounds so simple? Like be yourself, own it, like embrace what you're doing for people. Like, how could I be the person telling them to do that when I couldn't even do it myself?
Yeah. When
Mm-hmm.
I love the term that you used earlier in the show of that pushback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pushback has a negative connotation, but it's actually not necessarily always a negative thing. It
Yeah.
could be that sign, especially if you're getting pushback in the same area, it could be that sign that like this is a gap in the marketplace that you are meant to fill because you're already forward thinking in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like when I meet people who are like the absolute right fit, it's like they've had the situation where they've gone to an advisor and um like they're not getting the answers they were looking for. And they might have like a good CPA, but there's just so many questions on like, how am I supposed to align my budgets with the business so that it actually like does what I needed to do personally? And like, I need someone who's going to like hold me accountable. And it's not just like here's your thing, go do it. It's like really having like a true partner in your business and personal life. And like, because I've seen like that reaction of them interviewing so many people, like one of my clients who onboarded this year, he was like, I feel like I'm in Goldilocks right now, and you're the last one. So he's like, I hope to God that you're the last one I have to talk to, because you're the last one on the list, and then I'm gonna have to find a whole new like set of people. And thankfully, like what I have is exactly what he was looking for. But it's, I mean, yeah, like the industry is changing, the economy is changing, how people work is changing, how people are getting paid is changing. So it's like, if you don't have the support in this space to do that, like to be there and like lay it all out for people to, oh my God, my words are just like jumbling, but like dealing with the change that's all out there. If someone doesn't really understand that and is embracing that, then it's hard to like even exist in our industry anymore. And we have so many advisors that are retiring. And there's not enough advisors, period, to take over. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to do the traditional thing. I don't want to just invest money. I want to be like there for my clients. So,
well, and that's a perfect segue, because I know we only have you for a couple more minutes, but I definitely wanted to highlight one of your areas of passion, which is really helping entrepreneurial women and how that relates to finance. Because the way I kind of thought about this is it's the overall tension that comes with leaving your job, right? Because you think that there is a certain level of security working for someone else. But if you really break it down, you're trusting your future to someone else instead of trusting yourself with your own future. I feel like that's a little bit how your paycheck gets cut when you work for someone else, right? Like, there are certain things that you are made to pay in certain places, and then somebody else kind of handles that for you, and you're like, I don't really have to handle that. But if you handle that and know what you're doing, you have a little bit more money in your pocket. So I'd love for you to just highlight that a little bit of how you come alongside these women-owned businesses and help them navigate that and kind of get away from like those little fears that we all have.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's the simple way to put it is risk is subjective. So, and this like this is like a constant conversation with me and John is like, he's like, oh my God, like when COVID hit, oh my God, your business is going to blow up. And it's like in the implode way, not like the explode way. He was like, oh my God. He's like, no one's going to be spending money. And he's like working a W-2 job. And I was like, you're worrying about layoffs. My business is going to explode because everybody's going to be thinking about their money. And that's exactly what happened. But he's like, oh my God, who's going to pay the mortgage? And I was like, oh, like we plan for these things, like chill one. But he's like, I'll never be in business because then I have to worry about all these other people. And I'm like, what do you think you worry about now? Like, but it's so ingrained society wise that you go to a job, they take care of you, you're loyal and yada, yada, yada. But we have not seen that in the past like 5 years.
Yep.
Like you can just get let go for no reason.
Yep.
And I mean, like, if you look at it that way, if you are, and I mean, let me say this before I really get into it. John, W-2, will always be a W-2, and he thrives in that. So, like, we're talking about the people who are entrepreneurial at heart, who are sitting behind their desk and are afraid to actually take the leap. And 9 times out of 10, it's because there's no clarity around what the money situation is going to look like. So I found that MAP actually helps 2 audiences. It helps the aspiring entrepreneur who wants to leave their 9 to 5, but they really don't want to just leave and then like be like, okay, now what? They need it planned out, and they want to make sure that they're thinking of everything and they're not making mistakes. So MAP helps with that. And also to like the spouse. It's always the spouse who's like, I'm sorry, you want to quit your job and do what? So it's like really like getting everybody on board with the plan. and executing that so that you can leave your 9 to 5. Because there's like, if you're entrepreneurial and you're miserable at work, like there's no reason for that. Like there's just none.
Yeah.
And then for the already established entrepreneur, it's like, okay, I'm making money. Like we're bringing in clients. This is great. But like, I have no idea how to replicate like the 9 to 5 corporate type, like I'm saving for retirement and I'm doing all these other things, and also taxes, like planning for that. Like that's just a whole other area. And is there things that we can do to make sure we're efficient, but also like I'm not crippling my business to help me personally, but I'm also not crippling me personally to help my business. So that seems to be like the 2 areas. And then the way that I think about this in general and kind of like the mission of Via Brio is every driven entrepreneur that we help and we change their lives and their business with what they do with their work, they're able to replicate that. And it just becomes like this living like ripple effect. So like they may not be getting direct financial advice from me, but because we're doing things like this, then they're able to offer, like maybe they become in a like so big that they become a corporate setting, and then they're able to offer the unlimited time off and the real like the year maternity leave and like all these things that we all talk about like would be really nice to have as benefits, but no one wants to do it. With like women owned businesses are doing it. And they just need the support to be able to do it. And I think getting rid of the part of it is you're never going to get rid of the fear. It's always going to be there. But having calculated, clear understanding of risk is different than just being like, fuck it, I'm out. Like, I'm just going to go do something and we'll figure it out later. Like, so that like, and I mean, it goes back, like I've thought about every single part of like an entrepreneur's journey and like why I do what I do is because I see the holes. So, yeah.
No, this has been great and very eye-opening. I even learned, I mean, you and I have talked many times, but I learned something new with each time. So
thank you. And me too. I wasn't expecting the $20 story.
Just a little bit more to the foundation that is Whitney. We'll talk more about that later offline. Yeah. Chelsea, if people want to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
So I do have social media. So the Facebook and Instagram are at Via Brio Advising. And the website is viabrioadvising.com. Through that, there's ways to book discovery calls and chat through email and such. So I welcome any questions that spark from today's chat.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.